Hey guys, FRS guy here. Let's do a little video on some of the mods that I've done. We'll start with suspension, like what I've done for suspension mods, kind of run down what I do have and kind of why I did it, what my thought process was. And the next one will be on performance mods, which probably a lot of you already know if you've been watching the channel, but kind of a breakdown on what I did, the progression, and why you have to do certain things. Let's get into it. Alright, let's fire this thing up, pull her out of the garage. Woo!
X-band, K-band, Ka-band, laser.
Hey guys, alright, now this video we're going to get into the performance mods that I've done, kind of one by one. Let's talk about the biggest. The first, the obvious, is exhaust. Everyone's going to go for some type of exhaust. On these cars, probably the most power gained will be from a header and then throwing on a catback for sound. Okay, the stock exhaust isn't horrible, but that front header is terrible. So I went with the catback. I got Speed Factory. I got the big old muffler on there. Okay, when I bought this car, I had the TRD catback, which wasn't bad, but it wasn't a true. It was 2 1/4, but not a true 2 1/4. Okay, I'm not going to get into that, but it's not. So I went to a true 2 1/2 catback. You can see this. It's chrome. And then it's pretty straight all the way, and you can see I got it ceramic coated. So I got my rear pipe ceramic coated to match up. That retains heat, creates more power. But the big power maker is your header. Okay, everyone's got all different ideas. I'm in the 4 and the 1. I know nobody likes it, but it makes the most power. That's what I wanted. 4 and a 1, and I was between a couple different headers, and then this one was on eBay, used on sale, so I saved 50% again. So a lot of these parts, just don't automatically buy them. Go on eBay, keep looking around. If you don't find it, then just buy what you want. But if you find something on sale, someone else, because when these cars, people change their minds. They build it, I want this, and change their mind and tweak things around, so you can find things on sale. And of course that header comes ceramic coated. Can we see the next step? And then back here, don't think we can see it. There it goes, you can see it a little bit. That's my mid pipe. I got the nameless over pipe and mid pipe because it's one piece. There's pluses and minuses to that, but I did get the nameless. It's one piece back. I did get the 200 cell catalytic converter. I was trying to be a little eco-friendly, but the 200 cell it widens out, so supposedly it flows the same as an open pipe, even more supposedly. So supposedly it doesn't restrict much. I think on a dyno it costs you about 1 or 2 horsepower maybe. It's not a huge discrepancy to help be a little cleaner. Okay, front pipe has no cat. Okay, you want to push the muffler. The reason these cars have mufflers in the back is because you want the pipe to be straight and the muffler at the very end. That's why all manufacturers have the muffler in the back now, because 1, balances out the weight, but 2, creates the most horsepower. You want the muffler as far away from the engine as possible. That's the very last thing you want. So when I was naturally aspirated, I had the header right away, and the mid pipe, and I had that TRD catback. And then eventually I wound up getting the Speed Factory catback, which did have better performance than TRD. So I did pick up performance naturally aspirated. So the rear catback and the header are number 1. The next thing is getting rid of that over pipe in your mid pipe would be last. So maybe in order of importance would probably be the header, maybe the overpipe, header, overpipe, and then the catback, and then last is the mid-pipe in order of importance, because you're on a budget, so you can replace parts by part. So the very first thing, I'd start with header and then go from there. The next thing is going to be an intake. Now I'm supercharged now, so I have the Edelbrock intake on there, but the thing is you want to have cold air going into the engine. So the factory intake isn't horrible. I don't have mine out here right now. I'll just post a video up. Maybe I'll cover this up with the video showing you my intake setup. I do have a video on that. I ran the airbox, the factory airbox. I changed the short ram intake. I got rid of all that sound garbage. Put in a good air filter, and then I modified my snorkel. So you have to modify your snorkel, change your filter, maybe put a short ram on it, call it a day. You could put a whole intake on that comes out to the nose. I have a video on the intakes, and that would be fine. I don't like the ones that are open in the engine compartment. It just doesn't even make sense to suck in hot air. Okay, that's enough on that. So then you're gonna get yourself an intake. Now, when you change your exhaust and your intake, especially your intake, you're gonna change your tune. Okay, if you're not gonna get a tune, do not change your intake at all. Just leave your stock intake on there, maybe throw in a filter, call it a day. If you're going to change your intake, you're going to need a tune, and then the header will affect your tune also. So those two things you're going to need to retune. So you're going to need tuning software, because you're going to have to remap your mass airflow sensor, so then your engine knows how much air is coming in, so it can give you the proper amount of fuel. Plus there's a lot of things on this car that the factory does that kills power, a ton of things. I think I still find things I'm like, what? I never saw this map before. Why is it doing that? And then you have to fix it. So you're going to get your exhaust, you're going to get your intake, and you're going to get your tune. That is kind of your base setup for the car. And that's not cheap. That's a lot of money. Okay, so we're going to intake, exhaust, things like that. Now, before you rush out and get your exhaust, you have to kind of have an idea what you want to do with the car, what your goals are, and where you want the power, because there's all different exhausts. Like this big 4-in-1 long tube header might not give you the best low end power. There's headers that give you more low end power than this header. This gives you a lot of mid-range. This header's got good mid-range and strong top end. So with this car, ultimately with the automatic, probably isn't the ultimate header to have. Now with the supercharger, this header is amazing. So I was thinking ahead. So I'm like, if I'm going to keep modifying this car, this is one of the headers that gives me the most power through the mid-range and top end, which ultimately will be what I want. But there's other headers that are designed, like the unequal length headers, usually are a little bit better for the low end to mid-range power. So if you're going to leave the car mostly stock and not boost it, those are probably the optimal header. Or if you're going to know you're going to boost it, then you would go to a header that maximizes that. If you're going to put a turbo on, then don't buy a header, okay? Because when you buy a turbo, you're going to replace the header anyways. It comes with its own header. So if you think you're going to go to a turbo, just do your catback and just do your mid-pipe, things like that. Another thing's on exhaust is there's different catbacks you can get. If you're just going to leave it naturally aspirated, you're probably not going to need a 2.5 inch all the way back. You can get away with a little bit smaller exhaust. A 2 inch, 2 1/4 is probably big enough. You don't have to go to the full 2.5. Okay? If you're going to boost it, if you're going to supercharge it, you're going to need at least a minimum 2.5 all the way back. If you're going to put a turbo on it, you're going to want 2.5 or 3 inch. Depends on how crazy you get. But if you're in, for most of us with a standard motor, you're going to want full 2.5 inch all the way if you're boosted at a minimum. Okay? So notes to remember when you're buying these mods, try to think ahead. I mean, sometimes we don't know. I wasn't sure if this car was going to get boosted. I mean, I think that was the plan all along, if it was going to make sense. And then eventually I did it. So then all my parts fit together. Before I bought my catback, I knew I was going to boost it at that point. So then I picked out the 2.5 inch. So I have a full 2.5 inch exhaust all the way back. a new 2.5 inch might be a little bit on, would be just barely enough for boosted. So then I also ceramic coated it, which improves the airflow even more. So keep those things in mind for your exhaust system, because all these pieces fit together to create a certain outcome. Okay, if you want more low torque, find pieces that give you better low end torque. If you want more top end power, find pieces that give you more top end power. Things like that. Okay, and there's tons of dynos and charts out there. You kind of get a pretty good idea on all these parts. Okay, so you got your intake, you got your exhaust, you got your tune. The car is running good, but it could run a lot better. So the next thing is going to be flex fuel, which basically means you're going to have to upgrade your tune and get this flex fuel sensor. This sensor, what are they, $300-400? You can put them in like 10 minutes. They go right in. So installation is easy. The only thing is you have to get your tune, because what happens is these engines have 12.5 to 1 compression. That's too much compression for 93 octane. So that 93 octane, it just doesn't run that good. I don't know how to explain it other than it runs like garbage. Okay, doesn't really produce that much power. This engine's already lacking, and that doesn't help. This fixes a lot of that, makes the engine run. Your mid-range power with flex fuel is so much better. Even if it's not, let's say it's giving you only 10 or 20 horsepower, the drivability difference is night and day. It's night and day. Anyone who's had flex fuel knows once you get to like E40, it drives like a completely different car. It drives much better. And then it's safer. Your engine's cooler now. Your timing's not going to knock. You're not going to break things as easy. It's more consistent. Whether if it's 90 degrees out or 60 degrees out, it runs almost the same. And it's better emissions. It runs cleaner, so you're going to have less carbon, and it's better for the environment. So now you have your exhaust, you have your intake, you have your tune, you've upgraded to flex fuel. The only problem with this flex fuel, even with the stock motor, is your fuel pump might not keep up. Okay? People tell you that you don't need a fuel pump on a stock motor. I disagree. Either my fuel pump was bad or the fuel pump can't keep up. One of the two. So if you put flex fuel on it and you want to maximize it, and it's not, you don't think you're getting the top end power that you should, like in third and fourth gear, it's probably running out of fuel, and you probably need a fuel pump. So if you're going flex fuel, just think that eventually you're going to get a fuel pump also. As soon as you put and one of the early mods you should also do is this catch can. Okay, put a catch can on the motor. You can't run your PVC right directly into your engine. That's oil injection, that wrecks your engine. I have a video on that. Also, you need a catch can. So you need exhaust, intake, catch can. Those are going to be your first couple things. To use your intake, you're going to need a tune. So once you have those, then you get flex fuel. Now it's running way better. If you want to maximize the flex fuel, you're going to get a fuel pump. And now your setup is, now you're pretty much maxed out, because you have the right exhaust, you have your intake, you have a catch can, you have tune, you have flex fuel. Everything's going to be good to that point. And that's basically what I all had. And then after that is you're going to decide if you want to boost it. I decided to go with the Edelbrock because I have the automatic transmission, so I need a way to pick up power at any power at 2,000 RPM with the automatic. And then the only boosted option that's going to give me that performance is the Edelbrock supercharger. Okay, because it's an automatic. I think that was the right choice. It may almost be too much even with the automatic, so maybe in hindsight I could have got away with the Jackson, because now this almost spends too much, so it could even be overkill even with the automatic. But that's what I wanted. I wanted the instant power on. Like when you watch these guys with the Demons and all these cars that are supercharged, they're launching these cars at maybe 1,000 or 2,000 RPM sometimes, and they run 9-second quarter mile. So the superchargers can pull right from the start, which is why I wanted to have a similar reaction where I can launch it at about 2,000 RPM and it just pulls right away, which it does. So next thing you're going to get is boosted. When you boost it, if you're going to go supercharger, replace your pulleys, right? Comes with the idler, replace your idler pulleys, replace your tensioner, replace all that stuff. Mine had 60,000 miles on it. They're getting a little wobbly. I replaced it. It runs perfectly. I'm not having any belt issues. You can see it runs absolutely perfectly. It's not losing any boost. With these tensioners, you can lose boost if it's worn out, and you won't even know. So you won't be making the power that you're supposed to be making. When you do boost it, now your fuel system's not going to hold up. So you need better injectors. I went with 700. Oh, you can see it. DW 700s on there. Right now, I'm with the stock fuel rail. I think it's keeping up good right now. We'll see. And I have the DW 300 pump on there too. I did some testing. For some reason, I didn't put my fuel pump in right away. I don't know why, but in hindsight, let me do some testing. And with the supercharger, I was only able to go to half throttle before it ran out of fuel. It was running at 14:1 fuel-air ratio and running out of fuel at half throttle. So if you're putting a boost on it, there's no way the factory fuel pump can keep up. I don't care what anybody tells you. Anyone who says that is lying to you flat out, or they just don't know. Okay? It cannot keep up to this. It can't even hardly keep up to naturally aspirated on flex fuel. And then on this, with just pump gas, half throttle, tune's not even done yet, it was running out of gas. So it cannot keep up. Get a fuel pump. And performance, that's really it, because you've already done everything. You already have your exhaust. You already have with supercharger, you're going to get a new intake, right? The turbo, you're going to get a new intake. I didn't turbo, so I can't talk to you about wastegates and blow-off valves and all that stuff, because I don't know. I've never had a turbo car. It's one of the reasons I went supercharged, to keep the tuning very easy, so I can drive it all year and enjoy it. And I can enjoy it right away. It's still May. I think my tune's like 99% there, so it was very easy to tune, and that's why I went that way. So now you're gonna get your power adder. So you're gonna supercharger, turbo. Turbo's gonna replace this front header. Okay. Supercharger's not, so you pick up the exhaust to match your supercharger. Then you have to get fuel injectors, you have to get a fuel pump, you have to redo your tune. This flex fuel system holds up. I don't know how much power these fuel rails, see how it kinks down right there? I don't know how much fuel those fuel rails can hold, how much power they can make. I'm going to assume I'm at the maximum right now. I'm going to assume maybe about 300, 350 horsepower before those are not working or not good enough. So that'll probably be the next upgrade, as I'm starting to use more flex fuel now that I'm at E40. I have to do a full run and maintain I'm walking my fuel map up, my flex fuel map up, to make sure it's maintaining power all the way. What else do you have to do? When you add your power adders, running 0.20 weight oil is not going to be adequate. Okay, right now I have a mix, so I'm probably running about 0.25, because I mixed half 0.20, half 0.30. I may have to switch to all 0.30 once summer comes, and then you're probably going to have to go to some kind of cooler. Right now I'm not. It's been cold, it's still early, but now when summer comes, if it's building heat or too much heat, then I'm going to have to go right to I'll probably get the Jackson dual purpose radiator, so I have more water and has built-in oil cooler. The problem with adding oil coolers, external oil coolers, is you're adding more and more radiators. So you're going to build more and more heat in the front, which you don't want to do. You don't want to stack up 3, 4, 5 radiators all in a row, because each one's going to run hotter and hotter and hotter. Okay? So you have to keep that in mind when you're doing your mods, how many things, like right now I'm at 3. You know, your air conditioning condenser, actually you can turn that on, and that actually helps cool things. Okay? But now if I add another radiator in front of here, now this is making my intake temperatures go up, which you don't want. And these superchargers run hot. They all run hot. superchargers, turbos, all of them. I think the turbos might run more consistent, but once you start going to these power adders, they heat up the intake quite a bit. So you want to keep that as cool as possible. So you don't want to put your oil cooler, which your oil temps are 240 degrees, right in front of your radiator for your intake. That's not good. That's going to heat things up too much. So you probably go to that Jackson radiator, and it holds twice the coolant, plus it has built-in oil cooler. Then you're pretty much set again, and then you keep your boost around 8 to 12 psi, somewhere in there, and that gets you to the 300, 350 horsepower on flex fuel, and that seems to be about the limit of the connecting rods. For sure, that seems to be the safe. If you got 350 horse, a lot of people build 350 horse motor or boosted motors. That seems to be the limit for safety. With the supercharger, it's hard because then you go to the next pulley, you're going up to 15 psi, so you're bumping the horsepower up quite a bit. So this might be it for this part of the project until you build it. So that's what I have done. That's what you're going to need to do with the stock motor, and then that gets you to your 300, 350 horsepower. After that, you need to build the motor. That's a whole nother video, but in fact, I haven't built my motor yet, so I don't know. But you're talking another $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 to do that. Oh, one last thing on this video: to do these mods, make it work, get the best value, is you have to do the work yourself. Okay, I could not afford to do this if I had to pay everyone to install a supercharger, install my exhaust, put in my flex fuel kit, put in my headlights, put in my suspension. If I had to pay someone to do all that, I would not have a supercharger right now. But when you do it yourself, you're saving all that money. It's easier to do the more mods because the installation at least is free. It's just your time. So that's it. That's the car. She doesn't have the name. We'll see if it's a Mustang Killer or not. Maybe it'll be the Blue Mongoose. I don't know, but don't have a name. That's what I have done. Suspension, exhaust, tune, power adder. That's what I got. Subscribe, like, and share. Click thumbs up. Help me out. All right, thanks. Bye.